Story 1. When working at Walmart, someone's total came out to $6.66. I guess they were superstitious. They told me to change it by a penny up or down, but I couldn't without them purchasing something. I found stickers for 5 cents or clearance tackle for 10 cents, but they didn't want to buy anything. They just wanted me to change it by a penny. I told them it wasn't something I could do, and I wasn't going to charge them for something they didn't purchase. I offered to split the order, but they didn't want to carry 2 receipts. I told them they could just not take one of the receipts, and they complained about that too. They threw a fit. They tossed all their items on the counter, started yelling at me, and ultimately left without buying anything. They wasted their own time and breath for absolutely nothing other than a story I get to tell occasionally. Story 2. One time, a friend got really mad at me because I did not reply to their text right away. I was busy with work, and my phone was on silent. When I finally checked my phone, there were about 10 missed messages, all getting more and more upset. I replied as soon as I could, explaining that I was just caught up with work. But they were already furious, thinking I was ignoring them on purpose. It turned into an argument about how true friends make time for each other, even though it was just a few hours. It took days to smooth things over because I did not respond right away. Story 3. For dyeing my hair, even when I had not. First day back after the summer holidays, and I was walking into my classroom. My teacher would not stop watching me, glaring at me, but I continued and sat down at my seat. She kept her eyes on me the whole time, as the rest of my class arrived and sat down. It was only when everyone had settled that she called my name in front of everyone, causing all eyes to be on me. The first thing she said was, "You have dyed your hair. It is lighter," not asking, just accusing, and gave me an instant detention. I told her that I had not, that it got slightly blonder because of being out in the sun more, but she shook her head, told me not to lie, and then gave me another detention. Obviously, I did not go, so I got more detentions for not going, but I did not go to those either. It went round and round until she stopped but deemed me a naughty child. Story 4. A coworker was upset because I did not comment on her coloring her hair a few shades lighter. "Sorry, I am not that interested in your hair." Story 5. I used to work security at a high-end condominium a long time ago. Someone on the top floor called about a possible intruder on their roof terrace. I immediately went up to the roof to investigate. The lady complained that I entered her property without permission. "Lady, you called me for assistance. If you do not want my assistance, I will go get a drink. I am thirsty." Story 6. When I was 14, my mother thought her approximately 45-year-old boyfriend was having an affair with me. She kicked in my bedroom door, which had no lock, and tore into me, calling me a slut. I was still a virgin and very obviously hated her boyfriend. I left that night with a garbage bag of my clothing and possessions. Story 7. One time I was walking down the street when a woman I had never seen before tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You know what you did?" I responded, "I don't know what you're talking about." She replied, "I know you're lying," and then stormed off. I don't know why she was mad at me, but I'm pretty sure that was the dumbest reason anyone has ever been mad at me. Story 8. A dream. I dreamed I cheated and stayed angry the entire day. Story 9. I got written up in school once for gagging because a girl threw up right next to me and I reflexively gagged back. They said I was making fun of her. Story 10. I have partial hearing loss, not enough to be considered a disability, but enough to be annoying. There is a frequency near the middle of the spectrum that I cannot hear. A small subset of the population has a natural speaking voice in that range, so unless they adjust their pitch slightly, their words are unintelligible to me. I was working at a store when I heard something that sounded distant and directed elsewhere, so I ignored it. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw an older woman staring at me with an angry expression. I asked if she needed help, but I could not understand what she said, even though I was looking right at her. When I asked her to repeat herself, she stomped off in frustration and complained to my manager, who had already witnessed the situation. He reminded her that she had yelled at a person with a hearing impairment, and she eventually conceded her point about my behavior. Story 11. Walking along with my boyfriend, now husband. I jokingly called him ugly. He responded with an equally jokey, "No, you are ugly." We continued this playful back and forth for about a minute until a stranger overheard us and got mad, thinking we were being abusive to each other, even though we were clearly joking and laughing. Story 12. A couple of years ago, a man angrily called me demanding to know why I had called him. I had not called him and was actually busy cooking when he called me. About a year later, a woman accused me of stealing either her mother's phone or phone number. I had had the number for probably a decade at that point, so I did not know what that was about. I was having a bad day, and we both got pretty loud and angry. Story 13. A colleague at work drove a vehicle into a metal pole and blamed me. He was very angry with me. He actually reported me to the manager and said it was my fault. I was 50 feet away from him when it happened, but because I was the last person to speak with him before the accident, he believed I was somehow responsible. Story 14. I love telling this story. I worked in retail for over 8 years, so I have plenty of stories. One particular day, the store was slow. I was stuck at the service desk when a nice elderly man came in and shuffled up to the counter. I smiled and greeted him. He returned the smile and explained that he wanted information about one of the sofas we were selling at the time. His wife was homebound, and he needed the dimensions, fabric type, and other details. I grabbed some receipt paper and a pen and walked over to the sofa he was interested in to write down the information. He suddenly stiffened and let out an audible "oh." I apologized and asked if I had done something wrong. He said, "You're left-handed. You are a communist." He then shuffled back out the door and across the parking lot while I stood there speechless. I never got angry with him, but it was incredibly hilarious and completely unexpected. Story 15. When I was 16, I was dating a girl who bought me a mouse teddy for Valentine's Day. I thought, that's sweet. Something different. So I said, "That's really sweet. Something different. I love that it's a mouse. What made you pick the mouse?" And she went crazy. I made it very clear I liked and appreciated it. The question was genuine. "What made you think of that? So cute. How did you pick it? It was perfect." But no. So she took a 150 Irish pounds vintage locket I got her and threw it in a drain. She was crazy. Story 16. My ex-girlfriend from college was mad at me and did not speak to me for 48 hours. Why? Because she texted me asking if she could borrow my charger. And I said, "Sure," instead of "yes." Apparently, it is rude to say "sure." When we broke up, she texted me asking if I was happy leaving her. I texted back, "Sure." It has been 15 years, and it still makes me laugh. Story 17. I was in an abusive friendship and roommate situation. Leaving the gym once, my phone was at 2%. I was starving. He would only go through the drive-thru if I ordered ahead. He got furious at me for trying to complete my order before my phone died instead of hyping him up about the great workout we just had. I was not smiling when I saw him. I also did not say hi or anything else before he started asking why I was so upset. I did not put away the folding chair when I went to the kitchen to get a drink. I limited the cannabis budget to $1,000 a month during the pandemic when I was the only one employed. I got him socks for his birthday after he had made comments the last 2 years at every gift-giving occasion that he just wanted someone to get him socks. That was not the only thing I got him, but I did get him socks. I asked him to pick up ham when he went to the store after 2 years of doing all the grocery shopping because he was unemployed. I asked him not to add extra salt to my plate. I asked him not to slide my gaming tabletop across the floor. I looked up a diagram of something he was verbally explaining because I could not visualize it. There is more, but those are the ones I remind myself of whenever he reaches out wondering why we cannot try being friends again. Story 18. I had a date get upset and walk out on me because my blouse had little strings on it that hold it on the hanger. He asked me what the strings were and I told him. Then he called me too fancy for his taste and stormed out. Story 19. An ex-girlfriend was mad at me because her ear was painful, and she was certain she caught my cauliflower ear from having sex, as if it were a sexually transmitted disease. P.S. No, I did not touch her ear or grab it in any way. Story 20. I had a roommate who didn't believe I cleaned unless she saw it. When she told me that, I think part of my brain short-circuited. Story 21. I was very sick with some kind of stomach illness and had been experiencing severe diarrhea. My girlfriend at the time wanted to come over, but I told her no because I was sick. She came over anyway, and the second she walked in, she said, "Oh, I have to pee. Be right back." She walked right into the bathroom I had just used 2 minutes prior, then got mad at me because it smelled so bad. She was genuinely upset and then stormed out. Story 22. My toddler once raged at me twice as hard as she was already raging when I handed her the milk bottle that she specifically requested. That was pretty dumb. Story 23. I was talking to a girl in a bar. Later that night, I met a German girl and talked with her. The girl I had the conversation with earlier told me I should be with her, and she was mad at me even though I did not know her. Story 24. I got banned from a Reddit subreddit for pointing out that punching someone in the chest poses a risk of commotio cordis. Story 25. Trying to steal their partner and flirting. Waitresses are paid to be friendly. No one wants a partner who dates unstable people. Goodbye, my tip. Story 26. For 2 weeks in a row, with each volleyball match that our group planned to have on the nearby court, this friend of mine felt the need to complain about every mistake I made. Each mistake. Most of the time, the complaints were about attacks in which I hit the net or sent the ball out. The more she complained, the more upset I became. As a result, I made more mistakes too. This continued until I became frustrated and asked her to stop. She has not spoken to me for weeks now. To no one's surprise, I started playing better. Her silence was a blessing. Story 27. I was comforting her because she was sick and her grandmother had died. She told me that whenever I showed her compassion, she would become irrationally angry at me. Her words were irrationally angry. It kind of ended things between us because she said she did not know why she did that but could not stop herself from reacting that way, and it was not healthy. Story 28. I got yelled at as a child by my mother because I did not fold the towels correctly. I definitely folded them. It is not hard to make them look nice. However, I suppose not folding them in a specific way in a closet with a closed door was considered a big problem. Story 29. They have many petty reasons why people became upset with me, but I will find one. My aunt prepared food for me and my cousin. He became upset and said that my food looked better. That happened a few years ago. Story 30. I killed a spider. I was at work, and a woman sitting near me started hyperventilating because she is arachnophobic and a spider had just crawled out from under her desk. I do not have anything against spiders. They kill bugs that I find annoying, so I am happy to leave them alone. However, I thought this woman might pass out, so I stomped on the spider. Another woman, from the other side of the cubicle wall, heard the fuss and came around the corner to find out what was going on. I pointed my thumb over my shoulder at the arachnophobic woman and said, she was freaking out because she saw a spider. This other woman looked at me accusingly and said, "You did not kill it, did you?" She was acting like I had stomped on a baby or something. I said, "Well, I did not have any live traps, so yes, I killed it." Story 31. Because I left their blanket at a concert where they set up in the general admission field. However, this friend did not attend the show with me or intend to meet me there. They just happened to bump into my group and decided to stay next to us. Well, halfway through the show, they decided to go elsewhere and never came back. Now their belongings are my responsibility. This person stopped talking to me because of this. Story 32. I had a girlfriend who told me if I wore my new Roman sandals to my mom's birthday, she would break up with me. She gave me angry looks for the whole weekend that we were visiting my parents' home. We broke up soon after. I'm still not wearing these sandals, partly because they are uncomfortable. Story 33. I stole their camping spot. It is a designated spot in about 20,000 acres of Bureau of Land Management land, and there are at least 50 other spots. Somehow, this designated spot with a small tent sign was their secret. The only thing that made them calm down was me telling them I was too drunk to drive around in the wilderness in the dark. Story 34. There was a sticky mousetrap that had been set up. Caught a mouse one night. When my dad's girlfriend found it, it was in a different room from where it had been placed. I think it went from the kitchen into the garage, which were right next to each other. I, as the youngest child, was blamed and yelled at around 5:30 a.m. on a school day for moving it. We had a cat. Story 35. A 30-year-old man became angry because I would not sleep with him after knowing him for less than 24 hours. He threw a tantrum and left. Story 36. I've had people get mad at me a couple of times for not being willing to take a right turn on red when my view was obstructed. I am not going to risk my car and life just to save you 20 seconds. The last time it happened, a man in a silver Jeep honked loudly and was frantically waving his arms to the right with his mouth open and an angry expression. The pure entitlement of people like that. Story 37. I received a written warning when I worked at Walmart because I asked someone if they found everything okay instead of saying hello. Story 38. My ex woke up angry and was hitting and pinching me hard, cursing at me. She was very upset because I cheated on her in her dreams. Story 39. My coworker called me and left a message asking for a ride. I did not get the message and did not pick her up. That was 2 years ago, and she still hates me. I never should have broken my no rides policy for her. Story 40. I was on a bus once when an angry lady suddenly snapped and started yelling at me for not giving her my seat. I had both hands resting on my cane right in front of me. There were a dozen other people sitting who were not visibly disabled. Story 41. I visited my girlfriend once while she was at work in the early 2000s. There were no smartphones, and the phones we had did not display the date. While we were chatting, she asked what the date was. I gave her the date, and we talked for a couple more minutes. When we had a break in our conversation, she asked how I knew the date. It was a weird question to me because I always know the date. I said it was just something I knew. She then went on a rant, saying I must only know the date because I probably have another girlfriend and that it must be a special day for us to celebrate together. I told her that was a ridiculous accusation since I was always loyal to her. She then very loudly accused me of seeing someone else and stormed out of the work break room where we were talking, all because I knew the date. She refused to talk to me for the rest of the day and kept accusing me of cheating because I knew the date. Story 42. I worked at a regional landline phone company that had recently sold their directory assistance service to a third party, and customers all received a small credit to their accounts. My customer was outraged that the amount of his bill had changed because he was on a fixed income. Tried to explain that the phone company was giving him money, but he would not listen. He blamed me for trying to upsell him on new features, comparing me to a used car salesman. I had to escalate the issue to a manager, who said that he was the most difficult customer she had ever dealt with. Story 43. I was renting the back room at my grandmother's house. One day, my mother came over and noticed a bad smell. She went into my room and started berating me for stinking up the house, taking advantage of my grandparents, and being lazy. Then it turned out that my grandmother was microwaving cheese. My mother then gave me a half-hearted apology for saying I was smelly. Story 44. Back in kindergarten, we had Ziploc bags that held our agendas called Mr. Zippies. Once, I accidentally ripped my Mr. Zippy. No harm came to the agenda, and I was scolded harshly about being responsible, which made me go home crying. Another time, the teacher said she was going to switch my seat the next day, same teacher, same grade, but she did not come to school. The substitute told me to sit with my friends since someone had already taken my old seat. The next day, I forgot to ask the teacher for my new seat and was scolded again as she said, "Just because I'm not here doesn't mean you can sit with your friends." Story 45. Recent, but kind of a long story. Here's me keeping it as short as I can. I had a friend get mad at me while we were out with some other friends until about 10 p.m. We had another friend's wedding to attend the next afternoon. She accused me repeatedly of being mad at her for not letting me get drunk while I was just enjoying myself. We had maybe 2 to 3 drinks over several hours, and I was not planning to drink more than that since I did not want to risk being hungover at or right before the wedding. I would not call that drunk by any means. I was enjoying myself with everyone else while she sulked next to me. She acted upset towards me the entire next day, despite my assuring her that I was by no means mad. I was trying to keep a positive attitude until she announced what she said above to the entire group at the wedding. After that, I slightly returned the energy. She did not speak to me for several weeks after. Story 46. Maybe this counts, but one time when I was first living by myself, I was working night shifts, so my sleep schedule was unusual. My mother couldn't get a hold of me one day, even though I told her numerous times that I sleep during the day and wake up at night. She decided to call the police, who couldn't get into my third-floor apartment. The police then called the fire department, and they came in through my balcony, which was thankfully unlocked, so they didn't have to break anything. I woke up to a firefighter knocking on my door and the rest of his crew standing in my living room. They just said, "Your mother is worried about you." My mother was upset with me for not answering my phone and for making her call the police on me. I am a very deep sleeper and have always been this way. I have literally slept through fire alarms, which is why I didn't wake up to the police knocking on my door or the sound of several men in my living room. Story 47. I once had a stranger reprimand me over the phone about a flag flying at half-mast. I did not know who had died. I did not even know there was a flagpole on the roof of the building where my new job was. I do not know how he got my number. Then the person refused to leave his name or number so I could find out who had died and call him back. Story 48. I once had an ex get mad at me because we were always happy together and never argued. Apparently, she liked makeup sex. Story 49. A girl I was dating got upset because I would not get her pregnant. We had been dating for 2 weeks. Story 50. During the last election, I had a childhood friend who was very strongly against Hillary Clinton. I would calmly respond to their extreme rants with simple comments based on common sense. Nothing intense, but they did not appreciate that. Interestingly, he made a comment that was critical of Hillary Clinton, and it actually made sense. I responded with something like "too true" or expressed agreement in some way. He then replied, "I thought you liked Hillary Clinton." I said, "I'm voting for her because she is the better choice. That doesn't mean I like her very much." Because of this, he unfriended me. Story 51. Because I told them not to go see an ex. The last time they saw this ex, they ended up in the hospital on a psychiatric hold. Story 52. They were cooking dinner and burnt only mine. I tried eating it without complaining, but it was inedible. That person was angry at me for 24 hours because I would not eat the burnt food. Story 53. My last partner screamed and yelled at me because the only thing I wanted for my birthday was some ice cream. He bought me some clothes, which I loved but did not ask for. After not getting ice cream on my birthday despite asking, I told him I would go get it myself the next day. Apparently, I was being ungrateful for asking for ice cream, even though I never asked him to pay for it. I just wanted to get it myself after that. Story 54. I told him cows do not drown through their anus when they walk into water. Yes, he actually believed cows will just fill up with water the moment their rear end is underwater. No, I don't know how you could actually believe this. I think I made him feel stupid, but it's hard to explain that cows can close their anus without being at least unintentionally condescending. Story 55. I refused their $100 bill at 7 a.m. when it was the first order for my till. I am not a bank. Story 56. When I was 5 or 6, my mother got angry because I said airliner refers to the passenger aircraft operated by the transportation company. She insisted that airliner refers to the company itself. Story 57. Back when Vine was popular, my friend, probably in 5th grade, started making Zach King-style magic videos. I began making them too, and he got upset, posting on his other social media accounts about how I was a bad friend. I remember having petty arguments. In the comments, later he called me crying because his mom saw the posts and was angry at him. Anyway, he called crying and apologizing, and we decided to hang out that day. We are still great friends now. I am 21. We joke about it all the time. I love that dude. Story 58. My mother got mad at me for saying please. I had forgotten my book with her and I simply asked, "If you see my book, can you bring it to me, please?" She then asked me, "Who are you talking to?" That comment is so smart and disrespectful. Story 59. Had a miserable neighbor call the police because I walked across his driveway to get to my friend's house. There are no sidewalks. Story 60. I had a girlfriend break up with me because she got an eye injury, and I told her to go to the emergency room. She wanted to study for her final exam. She took a projectile to the eye, unrelated to me. She was leaking vitreous fluid. That is the substance that cannot be replaced. She ended up missing her final exam and was furious with me about it. I probably saved her eye with first aid and prompt diagnosis. It did not matter to her. That was a life lesson for me. Even when you are right, relationships depend on the value system of the partner as well as your own. I should have acknowledged her priorities better, even if they were misguided. I would do it again though. Story 61. This will probably get buried, but when I was in 7th grade, we had a particularly difficult teacher named Mr. A. He was notorious for his harsh demeanor and was often unpleasant to everyone in the class. His temper was short, and he frequently resorted to cursing at us, which made the classroom environment tense and uncomfortable. Many students felt bullied by him, and even the smallest things seemed to set him off. One memorable incident occurred during a math test. The classroom was silent, with only the sound of pencils scratching on paper. I realized that my pencil had broken, and I needed to sharpen it to continue with the test. Trying to be as unobtrusive as possible, I quietly stood up and walked over to the pencil sharpener at the back of the room. As I was sharpening my pencil, Mr. A suddenly erupted in anger. His voice boomed across the room as he demanded to know what I was doing. Startled, I turned to face him and explained that I was just sharpening my pencil so I could finish the test. However, my explanation seemed to infuriate him even more. He accused me of disrupting the class and breaking the rules by leaving my seat during a test. Despite my attempts to explain, Mr. A was relentless. He continued to berate me in front of the entire class, his face red with anger. Feeling humiliated and confused, I was sent to the principal's office. As I walked down the hallway, I couldn't help but feel a mix of frustration and injustice. It seemed so unfair to be punished for something as simple as sharpening a pencil. This incident was just one of many that made Mr. A infamous among students. His unpredictable outbursts and harsh treatment left a lasting impression on us all. Looking back, I realize how important it is for teachers to create a supportive and understanding environment where students feel safe and respected. Story 62. I have gotten irrationally angry at people for some unreasonable reasons. I was going to give my friend some roasted chicken because he liked it and had some issues with his legs, so he could not get one himself. My roommates ate it before I could. They did not know it was for someone else, but I was still very upset about it. My friend got mad at me because I told him he was being unreasonable for repeating political talking points. Story 63. My little brother once freaked out at me because I cut my sandwich straight instead of diagonal. He started yelling that only crazy people cut sandwiches like that. The funniest part is he is only 10 years old. Story 64. I told her I was struggling with my mental health. She did not want to hear that. Story 65. For some reason, I cannot say the word pregnant because my mother will punish me. Story 66. My principal once scolded me in front of the entire class for having too much power and misusing it. He said this because I scheduled a meeting with my friends for a group project and told them, which he overheard. He did not, however, hear the part where I checked with all of them if the timing was all right. Story 67. My ex-girlfriend got mad at me when we had agreed to drive separately to a restaurant where we would meet several other people. I walked over to her to ask if she knew where the restaurant was or if I should follow someone else. She drove right past me, ignoring me. I got in my car and followed someone else because I couldn't see where she went. When I got to the restaurant, she was furious at me for abandoning her back at her house since she didn't know how to get to the restaurant. I pointed out that she drove off before I had even left, but she claimed she only drove in a loop and waited for someone to help her. She still arrived at the restaurant before me but was inconsolable about me abandoning her. Story 68. Once, my mother lost her temper with me because I called her a bad word in my diary. Story 69. Saturday, my dad took me to my school's playground, and we found a ball in some thorn bushes. All the school balls had a class number on them. My father got it out of the thorns, we took it home, patched it, and reinflated it. I was going to bring it back Monday, Sunday, my friend Ben came over to play, saw the ball, and didn't say anything. Monday, I forgot to bring the ball and was called into the classroom it belongs in. It was Ben's room. Ben's teacher proceeded to berate me for being a thief in front of the entire class. Anytime I tried to explain, she just yelled louder. She basically told the entire class not to be friends with me. I was forced to stand in a corner at the front of the class for an hour. The next day, I brought the ball back with a note from my dad explaining what happened. She read it, crumpled it into a ball, threw it away, and then said, "You should have left it in the thorns." Story 70. Because I did not call her every hour while she was out with her friends, she ended up dumping me, saying it showed I did not care enough. Story 71. Not knowing what ice hockey was, I was new to Canada and 7 years old. That gym teacher was not polite. Story 72. While I worked at a gas station, my manager took me aside for giving death glares to coworkers. Specifically, his sister tried to scold me for not upselling a customer who was already upset by the time he got to the counter. She believed she had seniority over me, emphasis on believed. I kept my mouth shut, but apparently my eyes did the talking. I am physically unable to do it on command. It was involuntary. I was unaware that I was giving death glares and unaware of how powerful they apparently are. Story 73. My ex got mad at me because I cheated on her in her dream. Story 74. Said good morning. They turned around and screamed, "What did you just say to me?" Story 75. My girlfriend got mad at me because she forgot her hair clip at the office, and somehow it was my fault that I did not notice the clip when I picked her up from the office. Story 76. My ex would get upset when I caught her in a lie. She would often react strongly, saying how awful I was for noticing. This happened frequently because she was compulsive. Story 77. A wrong number. Someone called me looking for a person I had never heard of, then proceeded to explain how important it was, and got angry at me for not helping. What are you expecting me to do? Go look for them behind my couch? Story 78. Once I was blocked by a girl because I gave her the criticism she asked for. I do not mean that she was acting stupid. I mean she came up to me and asked what I did wrong. Story 79. I had a friend who was acting strange one afternoon, and I asked what was wrong. "I'm mad at you," she said. "Why? I haven't done anything. I had a dream last night, and you were very rude to me. So now I'm mad at you." "What? But I didn't do anything. You imagined me being unpleasant," I explained. "It seems like something you might do." Story 80. My wife and I had a near marriage-ending fight because she was furious when the ultrasound technician gave her a different due date for our first child than the doctor did. How dare that unqualified person tell her when her baby would be born? It was literally a screaming match in the car about how could I trust the technician over my pregnant wife. I explained that the technician takes measurements, refers to a chart, and calculates an age and due date based on averages. I was actually so close to stopping the car and walking home, leaving her to drive herself. We laugh about it now. Story 81. A team lead once felt that he had to talk to me because I did not say good morning to everyone when I first got to my desk in the morning. He has a habit of getting upset over trivial matters, so I decided to turn this into a spectacle. I left the meeting room and went to my desk. A minute later, he came out. I stood up and said, "Everyone, I have an announcement to make. John is apparently upset that I do not say good morning the second I get to my desk. I just want you all to know that, truly, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you the best of all mornings. May it be filled with puppies and rainbows, and hopefully tomorrow is even better, and the day after that." He was so furious and never bothered me again after that. Edit. Just to clarify, it is not that I intentionally avoid saying it. I am just not a morning person, and the second I walk in and get to my desk, I am thinking about other things. If someone says good morning to me, I will say it back with no problem. Story 82. My mother read an email I sent to a friend when I was in 9th grade and discovered I was struggling with being gay and feeling nervous and afraid. Her natural reaction was to sit me down and scream at me until I was crying. She continued to do this for years afterward, even saying I was going to get my dad fired from his military job because I was gay. To top it all off, I was the least problematic teenage boy. I never tried to sneak out, was not interested in partying, drinking, or drugs, rarely broke any laws aside from pirating, got good grades, and seldom got in trouble at school. But me being gay, this was obviously because I wanted to spite her or make the whole family miserable. Normal reactions to learning your son is gay. So that, probably. Story 83. I was minding my own business when my mother became angry at me for just relaxing and apparently smiling. She asked, "What are you laughing about?" But in a strange, aggressive way. This happens strangely often. I do not know what her problem is. Story 84. I tagged her in a picture of a penguin eating a fish, calling her fat. This ended a 6-year friendship. Okay. Story 85. Shared bathroom with sibling. Sibling uses my body wash and became very upset when they had an allergic reaction. Story 86. When I worked at Target, I had someone drive up with 1 pack of gum. Just that. It was during Christmas time. He got mad at me because I had 10 other drive-ups ahead of him who had been waiting longer. I wanted to curse him out badly. Story 87. Because I should have known 12 years ago what they wanted and immediately done it that day. I am not a mind reader. Story 88. An old boss of mine got mad at me because I did not say hi when I saw him at Walmart. No, I did not. I could not stand him, and I am not obligated to greet him at Walmart. Story 89. For agreeing with them, it has happened more than you would think. Story 90. My old roommate got mad at me for being mad. She slept with a homeless person on my bed. Still gets me. Story 91. I was picking up pizza for someone's Uber Eats order. While I was in line, an older woman behind me asked if I was getting the pizza for myself or someone else because she heard me tell the cashier I was picking up an Uber Eats order. I figured she was curious whether you could pick up an order for yourself on Uber Eats. When I told her I was getting it for someone else, she scowled and said that since I wasn't getting it for myself, I should let her go first. I was speechless because I couldn't understand her reasoning. Story 92. I work in data communications at a company that builds the products they sell. Engineering has poor practices when providing documents and locations of things. The head software engineer dislikes me and likely thinks I am incompetent because I am constantly being forced to ask questions. Like, where is this? Or is this working as intended? Because it is not in the test plan. Little does he know, I am literally being forced at every turn to ask by my management. It has become so uncomfortable that I dislike having to do this, and they have been unpleasant on a few occasions. It is not just me being unable to find basic information that should be easily available. Sometimes I ask on behalf of someone who simply needs help, but I am not going to say, so and so cannot find this, so I am asking you. Anyway, it is unreasonable to come at me passive-aggressively when the entire company is complaining about this and everyone dislikes the system provided. Story 93. I was good friends with a guy in high school. My friends and I would play card games at lunch and before school. One time, after a game, I slid my hand over to him so he could shuffle, but it was a bad slide and the cards fell on the floor. He got angry, tried to fight me, and we never spoke again. Story 94. This happened about a month ago. My mother-in-law is upset with me because my husband and I had dinner with her, and she wanted to gossip about our transgender nephew. She speculated about why he is insisting on making his life more complicated by identifying as a boy, questioned why it was necessary to claim to be transgender if he hadn't had surgery yet, and lamented how difficult her life is now that she has to explain to her friends that her granddaughter is now her grandson. We both stayed silent because we're used to my mother-in-law going on rants, and if you argue, she just gets louder, more stubborn, and worse. Apparently, I had an expression on my face that she didn't like and felt judged by. So now she's mad at me for not supporting her feelings and judging her. For real, after openly discussing my nephew's genitals at the dinner table, this woman is now mad at me because of the look on my face. I said nothing as she lectured me about how judgmental I was for about 10 minutes. We haven't talked to her since. My husband tried to call her and gently explain that although we are sorry she's upset, she shouldn't treat people that way, but she just yelled at him more. Anyway, it's unfortunate Thanksgiving is now a mess. Thanks for giving me a space to vent. Story 95. A man I was dating was a fan of Stavros Halkias. One day, he became convinced that I could attract him, which made him jealous, so he got angry at me. Story 96. During the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic, it was stated that everyone should receive the vaccine and that it should be mandatory. Story 97. I asked a former friend to stop talking about sex constantly. He became defensive and told me to stop trying to change him. He would not stop talking about sex. Story 98. Because I confirmed a plan that was happening later that day that involved her, she criticized me harshly. She was clearly very upset. Story 99. Une fois, je n'ai pas critiqué quelqu'un alors que cette personne aurait voulu que je le fasse pour aller dans son sens. Story 100. The Karen did not like that I was Asian. I asked, what is wrong with me being myself? Story 101. When I was in my early 20s, my girlfriend got mad at me at a dance club because I was not in the mood to dance with her. She was really mad, enough to break up with me. After 2 days apart, she realized it was a silly reason to be upset, and we got back together. We have now been married for 23 years. Story 102. My ex gave me 2 days of silent treatment because I cheated on her in a dream. Had I cheated on her in real life? No. Story 103. I hate to say this, but off the top of my head, it was my fiancée. She is a neat freak, and I was cleaning the house and taking out all the garbage bags because trash pickup was the next day. I grabbed the small trash bucket in her bedroom, emptied it into a trash bag, and left. She was furious. You would have thought I had stolen from her. I know this paints her in a bad light, but about a month later, she apologized for her behavior. She has major trust issues stemming from her mother, who caused her legitimate post-traumatic stress disorder. Her mother had gone into her apartment a few times before and rummaged through her belongings to find something against my fiancé. She also had another incident with her sister where this happened. I did not know about it at first, but she explained it to me and apologized profusely. Since then, I have learned to ask her first and earn her full trust along the way. Story 104. Have children, this list will be endless. I once asked my toddler son not to get toothpaste on his stuffed crocodile, and he was upset with me for 2 days. Story 105. My now ex-wife got mad at me because after she walked out on us and moved in with her new boyfriend, she visited our daughter after a few months. She used this time to access my computer while I was at work. On my computer, on a messaging app, she read that I had said to a friend, "Well, dude, I guess if this continues and the divorce happens, then I assume at some point I will have to start looking for someone else." She was furious when I arrived home, as this proved I was not committed to our relationship. Story 106. I was best friends with a girl from ages 13 to 19. I got into a relationship. Not my first, but my first after high school. And she left all of our group chats, blocked me, and told our mutual friend that I would come crawling back when we broke up. I hadn't been spending any less time with her. I hadn't been talking much about the relationship since it was brand new, and I didn't say anything bad about her. She wasn't lesbian or bisexual. I am bisexual. There were never any feelings or anything between us because she was very straight. We literally never spoke again. We're almost 30 now. I was a little hurt but mostly confused at the time, and I remain confused now. I was just talking about this with my husband earlier today. I hope she is doing well. But what was that about? Story 107. A girl at work was dating a coworker. Her husband came into the bar where we worked and caught them making out on the back patio. She blamed me for her husband finding out she was having an affair because I did not tell her that he was there. I told her that it is not my responsibility to conceal her infidelity. She and the coworker she had the affair with tried to get the owners to fire me for creating problems in their lives. They were both fired on the spot. I did not know her husband at the time of the affair other than who he was. 2 years later, he got a job at the same bar. After he and I talked one night about their divorce, he realized I was the reason he found out about the affair. Story 108. My now ex-friend got mad at me and even made her other friends yell at me when I replied with a thumb emoji to a group message announcing that she found her wedding dress. Apparently, I was supposed to drop everything and praise how pretty it was because she had low self-esteem, according to her. I was busy with my studies at the moment and intended to say something nice about the dress face-to-face later. But oh well. I guess that friendship was about to end anyway, since she hadn't asked how I was doing for 6 months and spent 1.5 hours talking about her wedding during my small birthday party, essentially forcing everyone to listen to her monologue. Story 109. I told someone I was not going to vote in the United States presidential election. They commented on one of my posts on X and told me I should vote for Donald Trump if I care about the United States. I told them I do not, in fact, care about the United States. They got mad and said I better not be voting for Kamala Harris. I told them I am not voting for Trump or Harris. They asked why. I told them it is because I do not live in the United States. They said that is not true and I can just mail my vote in. I told them I am not a citizen and cannot vote even if I wanted to. They asked why I am not a citizen. I responded again that I am both not a United States citizen and do not live in the United States and am, in fact, a citizen of a foreign country 6,000 miles away from the United States. They asked why I am commenting on United States politics. I responded that it is entertaining to watch the circus unfold. Then they blocked me. Story 110. Telling them what I do for a living. I explained the scope of work, but they did not agree and became upset. Story 111. Because I posted an anti-Donald Trump joke on Reddit, those people are touchy. Story 112. My former best friend punched me in the face because I was using her crayon, as if she owned that specific crayon. Story 113. I was in 2nd grade, reading Clifford the Big Red Dog during free time. There was a part where Clifford howled and it looked fun, so I howled too. That's when my teacher yelled, "Who's making that noise?" I raised my hand, and my teacher told me I would have no recess that day. I was a kid reading a book. Story 114. I never read the books, but I made a joke about a character in Game of Thrones dying. To be fair, it is not hard to accidentally be right, but at the time I made the joke, they were still alive. Someone completely lost their temper at me for giving away spoilers. Story 115. Someone else in the office used the microwave. Apparently, I am the microwave police. Story 116. My ex got mad because I didn't say how I like my sandwich. I asked her why she didn't just ask me before making it. Story 117. Wife. I had a dream I cheated. She was mad at me for days. Ex-wife. Story 118. My ex-wife still gets angry at me for not getting upset over trivial, inconsequential matters. I would literally be in trouble for not being violently angry that the car in front of us is going 5 kilometers under the speed limit. Fun times. Story 119. Not using enough trigger warnings in text. I understand that some subjects can be difficult to handle. However, do I have to use trigger warnings for every sentence, even for the mildest content? Story 120. My dad got mad because he needed something and I needed a minute to brace myself when I stand up immediately so I do not pass out. I had postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome as a child, but he just thought it was an excuse since he could not give me even 30 seconds to see, hear, and walk without falling over. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.